I wanted to break down one of my latest signals that I sent to my private mentorship group on Thursday night that basically played out on Friday morning. And this was a textbook, beautiful NAS setup with an amazing risk to reward, and really one of the signature style trades that I really take for myself when it comes to my confirmations, my way of trading. All right. So we're looking at NAS100 on Thursday. We had a break of structure that took place above 17,790 that triggered me to want to go and look at this trade. Okay, so first and foremost, when I look at the market, especially something like NAS, structure is going to be everything first and foremost, right? We want to identify the highs and the lows of the range that we are looking at here. So looking at it from a bit of a more higher time frame, we had been forming this uptrend for quite some time, really since the lows here at 17,135. From there, we've put in lows, new highs, lower highs, higher highs, lower highs, higher highs, etc. So at this point, we really want to look at this latest range that formed here, where we had put in this low, we had put in this high, a lower high, and then this higher high that broke out above this range right here. So I was looking for long opportunities. Now the whole idea here is that we want to wait for retracements that allow us to get in at better price points. We don't want to chase breakouts. We don't want to get in too high, because whenever the market is going to make a new impulse, we can expect some retracements before we go and put in some new highs, assuming that the trend is going to continue. So trend has been identified. That's number one. The second thing is looking at where is there a key level in price? Where have we seen where we see multiple touches at a certain price point? If we drop this down to about a 30-minute, right, we can see that roughly at this 17,785 price point, we've seen price basically sit at this level before eventually breaking above that. So this is a decent level where we're going to want to look for retracement. So we're going to go ahead and mark off that level. I like to use this trend line tool and basically mark off an average of where we see price touch a certain point. Right? So for us, that's around 17,786. My entry came in at around 17,791. For the signal that was sent out to my private mentorship group, we just wanted to round it up to basically 17,800. So that way, in case we didn't get the full retracement here, we still were able to enter off of a psychological whole number, 17,800 being a very clean number to enter off of. And usually whenever I go for my NAS setups, I typically go with a 50-point stop, or basically 500 pips, which puts us roughly at around at 17,750 area. So getting in at 17,800, stop loss set at 17,750. And then we're always looking to target at least a 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio. That puts us in at 17,950. Now again, because of psychological whole numbers, if we get to 17,950, there's a good chance that we can continue potentially to 18,000. And that's where I had my final target for the private mentorship group for our TP4. So essentially this was the before of this trade idea. Now there's a couple of other confirmations that came into play for us to really make sure that this is a high probability trade scenario. One thing that I really like to look at is turning on the sessions indicator for Asian range. So there is that indicator that you can search up on TradingView called Sessions by JRFX Addict. We filter that, turn off London and New York, basically staying with Asian. And we have this low within this red box, and then we have the high within the red box. Right, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually use one of the rectangle tools that I have preset for Asian range, so that way we can go ahead and take off the indicator just basically make the chart a little less crowded, right? So we got this Asian range locked in, turn this off, and this was another great confirmation. Usually whenever we start to break either the lows or the highs of the Asian range, we can find opportunities here. There was some potential for us seeing breakouts to the downside, which could have caught, some sells here. However, I did not participate in that move because I had an overall bullish bias when it came to this pair, and I was waiting for the right time to strike, essentially, right? So we broke above the Asian high cleanly. Market structure is also painting bullish, and we are up and above this key level. So multiple things going in our favor here for this trade idea. Now, again, I mentioned that this was sent out on Thursday. Eventually, it leaked into Friday. We had some high impact news, but you see that pretty much once we called out this trade idea, it took about 15-30 minutes for us to really tap in. And this was a trade that actually experienced a pretty strong drawdown after being in and out of profit for quite some time. So not every trade is going to be super clean when it comes to the way it plays out. We're not just going to always tap into entry and completely fly into take profit. Sometimes we're going to be in drawdown. Now, this was definitely a little too close for comfort when it came to this setup. You can see that we were very, very close to stop loss. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why we set a stop loss at a specific spot. And that leads me to looking back at the 1 hour for what I like to use as a confirmation, which is supply and demand zones. In this case, a demand zone on the 1 hour time frame. And that is for this 1 hour bullish candle, which was essentially the candle that broke out of the range. So if we look at the low that was put in for that breakout candle was right here. And that was the high of that breakout candle. Now, if we look, I personally have noticed, right? And I've learned supply and demand in different formats, a lot of order block stuff, but I haven't really seen too much where they talk about these wicks. And this has been basically a staple of mine that has been able to help me create, a lot of clarity when it comes to, where are these demand and supply zones located. So this wick right here is the last wick that was put in before price ended up breaking for a new high. And so I love to enter off of those. Ideally, looking back at it, obviously it would have been better as an entry to get in on this open of that candle. However, we didn't want to maybe risk that we were not going to get tapped in that far down. So I was happy with the 17,800 level, 50 pip or 50.500 pip stop loss is typically what we like to go for anyways, and it worked out in this scenario. So this is where definitely trusting your game plan as far as why you have a stop loss set in a certain place, being accepting of the risk that you're taking when you pull the trigger on that trade, allowing the trade to fully play out is a big deal, right? So proper position sizing is huge in this type of scenario where we're in deep drawdown. And then also just psychology, right? Being able to be mentally strong when it comes to seeing the trade not going your way and then eventually turning around, right? So eventually, overnight, after we got very close for stop loss, we form obviously a new Asian range, and we're gonna go ahead and see how that starts to unfold. So we start a new Asian range here, and then eventually we end that Asian range. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and delete this Asian range that is no longer relative to what we're looking at for the rest of this setup. We can see that for Asian range here, we had ended up putting in a high over here and putting in the low right here. So a very tight Asian range for this continuation of this setup. So this was definitely an overnight setup that we basically slept through, right? I was sleeping through the rest of this aftermath when it came to this trade. But if we were actually up during London, we would be able to see that indeed everything looked like it was trending in the right direction after being in deep drawdown, because the same way that we had that Asian breakout on Thursday, we see that we ended up having an Asian breakout again on Friday during London session. This is about 3 a.m. at this point right here. And so by the time we wake up for New York session, we were already back in profit. Now we also did have some high impact news on Friday, which created the volume for us to come in. We see that price broke out of the range, retested the Asian range, and then continued to move throughout New York session, eventually tapping into almost final target, right? So we were about a couple of pips away from what is a 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio total for this trade. Okay, so this was a textbook, beautiful trade. Again, trusting the stop loss, understanding market structure, and some of the other confirmations like our demand zones being respected and Asian range breakouts. So on our platform, AkashX, this is where I do private education and mentorship. We had sent out that signal on Thursday. Entry price 17,800, stop loss 17,750 with our TP final being 18,000. So this was a start to finish beautiful trade. On our Telegram, we actually see the trade updates being sent on here and some of the good reactions from the members on here that were able to profit with me on this trade. So this is what I love to look for over and over when it comes to NASDAQ and gold as well. But definitely a banger for the books. So guys, it's really just about trusting your system, trusting your formula, and just allowing the market to play out. And you just have to have the patience to sit through the setup. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video breakdown of how I traded NASDAQ on Friday and how we were able to help our members secure the bag over the last couple of days. With that said, guys, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe for more video breakdowns and other exclusive content when it comes to my day trading. And with that said, guys, let's run it up.